Well, so what are we gonna do today, Cousin PW?
The same thing we do every day, Melvin. Try to take over the neighborhood. Hey y'all, Bloodwing here, back to bring some grumpiness to the internet. Tonight's video is one that I've had in queue to do for quite some time now, practically since I started the channel really, and just decided to drag it out and finally do something on it. It's a video by a fellow by the name of Kevin Logan.
Hey, Cousin PW. I think I know who that feller is. Ain't he the one that's also in that group of numbskulls that's headed up by Fisty Splinters and buddies with Michael Rowlands and all the rest of them?
Yeah, you got it right, Melvin. That's the fella. And he's only slightly more agreeable than Michael. But we're going to take a look at something he talked about several weeks ago. And ahead of time, I'm going to apologize for the audio of this. It's not my fault. I'll try to clean it up best I can, but that's the way he recorded it. The audio's pretty bad and a little low at times, so do the best I can with it, but I make no promises. But he takes a look at why anti-feminism exists by reading an article from, yeah, you guessed it, from Tumblr. So, without further ado, Scooter, run that beautiful beam footage.
Are you about ready to get rolling?
Hello there, YouTubes. How are we all? I'm very well. Thank you for asking. Now, this one's going to be me reading from a Tumblr post. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I'm not one for Tumblr usually as well, but this is a sort of internet celebrity type person, so it might be of some interest because for me, this was one of the, as the title suggests, it's Hank Green on anti-sjw-ism. And for me, it was one of the best answers to a question about that from anyone that I'd seen, certainly from any of the really sort of big YouTuber internet people. For those who don't know, Hank Green is one of the Vlog brothers and one of the founders of VidCon and all of that sort of stuff, and he's a very funny and pleasant chap from what I can tell. Anyway, right. And I'll leave a link to the thing, the original post below, although frankly, you don't really need to read it because I'm going to read it to you verbatim.
Oh no, don't read it for yourself. Don't think for yourself. Trust me, I won't mislead you. Honestly, folks, I was going to put a link, I was actually going to put screenshots of the actual article up here. When I first found this video, it was still up, but now that I look, the site is gone. So, can't do that. So we'll just have to read along. I did read along with him once, and to my amazement, he does read it pretty correctly. A couple of mispronounced words here and there, but I think the gist is still there. So I would rather have had screenshots of it for you because I think my listeners are far too intelligent to try to tell you to just listen to me and believe. I'd rather you find it out for yourself. But this is one of those times I just can't. So let's all get on our little placemats and get ready for story time.
Right, it was posted on the 19th, so what, 3 days ago. The questioner asks, what's your take on, for lack of a better term, anti-sjw reactions? I mean, what do you think drives it? What do you think is broader political or social character of the people that express that sentiment? And what do you think the response to the people that express that sentiment should be? That was from someone called Polka.Socks. The internet is a lovely place, isn't it? Right, and Hank Green answers, here's what I think. These ideas about how words have deep and sometimes hidden impacts on people, they developed in isolation at academic institutions. They sat around in the collective consciousness of liberal arts educated folks like myself for a long time before finally leaking out as the internet brought overeducated people together with people who had never been exposed to these ideas. When that started happening, it mostly resulted in harmless frustration, as people who were 10 steps into these issues expressed frustration at people who were busy living lives that did not include feminist critique, and then in brackets, and vice versa.
Okay, so basically what we have here, some Tumblr idiot wants to know what he thinks makes us anti-SJWs tick. Now, I really don't much like that title. I've referred to myself as that a couple of times. But usually I just say from this corner of YouTube, because I'm not too much for labels. But, whatever. For the sake of simplicity, let's just say that, yes, that's what we are, anti-SJWs. And up to this point, I pretty much agree with his assessment, although probably not for the reasons he's thinking, as we'll see as we go along. Probably started because there was a lot of overeducated people sitting around making up things to think about. And they got frustrated at the normal, everyday, average person that didn't have the time nor the inclination to think about these made-up things. So yeah, I kind of agree with it. Probably started there with people that were just over-educated. Too much time and too much thought on their hands.
But the internet doesn't amplify harmless frustration. It amplifies the voices of the most outraged. And the outrage pulls useless, angry, poorly reasoned arguments out of both sides. Then one side shares the worst of the responses from the other side, and the other side responds in kind. The anti-SJW side never actually got exposed to the original arguments. They were either exposed to the worst reactions of angry feminists, or the imagined, inflamed, and even impersonated versions that have popped up over the last few years.
Are you already starting to see where he's heading here? Because I am. He states that we anti-SJWs weren't exposed to the original argument. Do you really think we're that stupid, fella? Do you think we don't read? Do you think we don't research? I know that you guys do. I seen that video of Christie's answers to anti-SJWs, and it was mentioned more than once in there about how we don't research and we only read the first couple of paragraphs of the first sentence, which is bull crap. I can only speak for myself, but I know I read the entire articles. I read several articles stating voice opinions, and I know that somewhere in the middle is where you're going to find the answers. I'm that smart. And some of us were around before the internet came to be, and when it came to be, like myself. I was there for second wave feminism. I knew its virtues, and I knew its faults. That's why I'm an anti-feminist now. But it just amazes me, the narcissism that comes from the other side sometimes. Just really gets me.
After having been exposed, it's unlike Hank Green to use the word being twice. Anyway, after having been exposed to those judgments, or the imagined versions of them, people feel as if they've been told that they are evil or bad or whatever, and must behave differently.
Notice again that it said, or the imagined versions of it. Again, we're too stupid to understand what's being taught just because these other people are educated. Good on you if you've got a college education. But that doesn't make you more intelligent than me. Maybe more learned, but not more intelligent. Quit looking down your nose at me just because you have some degree. That and $5 might get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Maybe. But I do agree to some point here, and that when people start telling us this is how we have to behave because of their made-up problems, then yeah, people are going to fight back. You got that right.
That's in capital letters, by the way. And then this next sentence is highlighted. And the response of young people, especially young men, when they think someone is trying to control them with what sounds like adversarial and made-up bullshit, tends to be frustration and anger.
And now it starts. It gets laid at the feet of men, in particular here, the feet of young men. But it's not just young men. In fact, it's not just men. I bet you that people like, Sugar Tits, Peach Bailey, Base Mama, Griffix, I could go on, would be interested to know that it was just the young men that take offense to being told what to do because of this made-up bullcrap.
No, I get why he's highlighted that, because this is me now that I'm not reading from it. I get why he's highlighted that sentence, because that's the key of it. It sounds made up because you're not exposed to the original idea, just the outcome of that idea. You haven't been a part of the original discussion, and so what comes out of the other side might seem crazy or sound like he says. It sounds like it's adversarial when it's actually not meant to be that way at all.
And here Kevin just doubles down on it. Yeah, no kidding, Sherlock. I imagine they didn't mean it to sound crazy at first. But the fact that it sounds crazy to us is not because we don't understand what you're saying or because we haven't been subjected to the original argument. It's because it is made up and it's crazy. Can't you get that? You know, you guys are so assured that our side is stupid, too lazy to do any type of research, low IQ, on and on and on, and that you're so much better and so much smarter than we are that you can't even see the fact that the garbage you spout is crazy just because it came from some supposed learned people with multiple degrees doesn't make it right, doesn't make it any less crazy.
Anyway, I'll dive straight back into what he says. Right? This isn't just young people, and it's not just men, but it tends to be young men because there's a tendency among both young people and men to chafe at people attempting to control them. And yes, it tends to be young white men because white people are, on average, less used to people attempting to control them. And yes, it gets worse if the person attempting to do the controlling is a woman because, well, maybe let's not go there right now. And there's
That's the sound of me hitting my head on the desk. So it's not just young men, but it's mostly young men. And not just young men, but young white men. So now it gets turned around and turned into a racist thing because we're not used to people telling us what to do. I'm sorry, but I've had people telling me what to do my entire life, you know. Growing up, it was my parents. As I got older, I got a job, they told me what to do. The police officers tell you what to do. Your lawmakers tell you what to do. Just because I'm white does not mean that I have not been told what to do. Oh, the mental gymnastics here is just making me dizzy. And then to go on and say that we chafe, particularly because it might come from a woman. Let me tell you something. I've worked a lot of jobs over the years, and in some of those jobs, the last one I had, as a matter of fact, I had female management, and I could care less if she was a woman as long as she'd done her job correctly. That's all I care about. I don't care if you're a woman. If you've got a good idea, tell me. And if I deem that it's a good idea, don't expect me to believe it just because you say so. Once I research it, once I think about it, and I think it's a good idea, I'll tell you so. I don't care what sex you are. Don't care what color you are. Honestly, the sex of the person speaking and the color of this person speaking only seems to matter to your side, Kevin. Why is that?
nothing like a person who is unused to feeling persecuted and is maybe also feeling insecure and searching for a way to identify with strength and masculinity, and then in brackets, and in the most severe cases might even be feeling very lost and lonely and rejected for other reasons, close brackets, for spending a lot of time getting really angry really publicly.
Feeling insecure, searching for identity, feeling lost, feeling lonely, rejected, and getting really angry really publicly. I don't know about y'all, but that sounds a whole lot more like their side than ours. I even seen a thing on the thing going on up at the campus at the University of Toronto up there that everybody's aware of, with that professor and everything. And a bunch of SJWs surrounded that professor. You've probably all seen the same video, and started attacking him for his views and asked him why there was violence in his protest but not theirs, because the violence was committed by the SJWs. And it normally is. Now, our side's not perfect. Never will you hear me claim it is. But generally, if anyone's acting really angry really publicly, yeah, it's the feminists, it's the social justice warriors, it's Black Lives Matter, it's all that stuff.
Now I'll just break off from the thing again for a second. That, again, that is an absolutely key point, because it's that feeling of alienation that you get, certainly with young people, and young men specifically, combined with what he previously discussed, the idea that white people aren't generally used to being controlled in those ways, certainly in the Western world, that I think leads to this really vitriolic, angry white men, anti-SJWism thing that's happening. And I think Hank Green picked out those 2 points really very well. And I'll dive back in for the last paragraph, right?
Of course you would agree with him. It makes you feel superior, makes you feel like your side is the only one that's right, Kevin. But see, my arguments I've already made against this assertion that it's just males, young white males. Again, why is it that it's your side that cares so much about the sex and color of anyone voicing their opinion? I just don't get that.
So that's what I think it's about. And I think both sides participated handily in fucking it up, because this was all supposed to be about empathy, and yet so many people's first exposure to these theories was being shouted at for being in the world incorrectly. And as much as young white men do not sound like the group of people that needs the most empathy in the world, I think that there's a lot of damage done to the world by belittling their frustrations and calling them unimportant. Even if these frustrations are comparatively unimportant, shouting, "Your frustrations are comparatively unimportant," that was in a couple of letters, at them, is not how to make a better world.
Well, he tries a backhanded compliment here, trying to say both sides were at fault, but still his true colors come through. Although it might seem that a young white man's troubles are insignificant, yeah, that's basically, we know that's how you feel about us. Our problems don't exist or aren't important. By the way, I just watched a video by Peach Bailey where she tried to find any kind of men's shelter for people that are battered, men that are battered. I suggest you go watch that video. Pretty eye-opening. You can't even try to be egalitarian in this, fella, without somehow bashing how we as white men feel. Now, I'm no longer young by any stretch of the imagination, but I am a white male. And even in trying to make it sound even-handed what you're saying, you're still insulting us. Jeez, you guys just don't even realize how ridiculous you are, do you?
And that's the end of the actual piece. Like I say, it's linked below. You can go and check that out. And I'd be genuinely interested to hear people's take on that, because for me,
Oh, don't worry, Kevin. You're getting my take on it.
that was a really concise and erudite way of putting it. It picked out the two absolutely key components of it. As I said, the fact that white people aren't used, especially white men, are not used to being controlled in ways, especially by people who aren't also white men. And that feeling of alienation within young people, especially, and young men, especially in a world where, I think a point that he didn't necessarily bring up, which is understandable given that he's from a more middle class background, is that within young white working class men in the Western world, what seemed like a relatively set future isn't there anymore. The deindustrialization which has taken place, which has robbed the certainty of future that let's say the previous 2 or 3 generations of white men in the Western world had, the idea that you were going to go into a set field and that you had a job for life, and then you got to be the sort of head of the household and all of that. And I'm not even going into the rights and wrongs of that. I'm just saying that was the way it was, right? That's now been done away with. And so ideas of what masculinity was have been done away with. And so when you then have people attacking this kind of almost semi-mythical, kind of almost deified version of masculinity, which is what obviously feminists do. You know, it's to say, you know, to try and break down those absolutist gender role type thing. That's what's going to get an angry reaction.
While I will agree that those are all reasons that young men might be angry today, for sure, that is not the reason that they're anti-SJW. It's because they're smart enough to see through your rhetoric. They're smart enough to do the research on their own and figure out on their own that you're full of crap. You guys will do anything to deflect. You'll do anything to deflect the fact that your arguments are garbage, your ideas are junk, and it's just imagined things. Everything that you spout as reasons for what you do in third wave feminism, in modern social justice warriors, in Black Lives Matter, on and on and on. It's just made up stuff that doesn't exist. And we're all too smart to be fooled, Kevin. Yeah, it can't possibly be that, can it? It has to be everything else. What next? It's the weather that causes us to be social justice warriors? Is it something in the water? What are you going to use next to deflect from the dumbness of your arguments? What's next?
And I don't think for a second that means we stop doing it. Not for a second at all. But as I think Hank Green said, I think it's a very interesting and good point to make. That it doesn't help anyone to just say, oh, their problems are unimportant, or they, you know, that their anger is irrelevant or something like that. I think it needs to be taken into account and dealt with in a slightly more empathetic way than maybe sometimes has been the case. But no, we're not going to bend over backwards for those people, because it's that angry bullshit, which I think is the ultimate side of that kind of white male entitlement thing. But anyway, I thought I'd bring that to you because that was really interesting, and I thought it was a well put answer to the question. I'd be really genuinely interested to hear what people have to say on that. That's why I brought it to you, because I want to see people's reactions. So leave comments below. Look, as the article explained, try just shouting at one another isn't going to answer anything, isn't going to get past anything. So let's try and be a bit more civilized. Again, I realise I'm sort of pissing into the wind on this one, but if we could try and have a discussion rather than a shouting match, that would be great. But I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts, regardless of what your opinion is. So thank you all for listening and watching. Pip pip.
No, Kevin, I doubt very much that you care what my opinion on it is. And I doubt you'll ever see this video, but if you do, here's my opinion. What do you think? Anyway, there you have it, folks. Basically what I got out of that, maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. Basically what I got out of that was they think we're all too dumb to think for ourselves. Can't possibly be that. Because, you know, can't be the arguments. Anyway, that's all I've got for this time. And as always, get out of my yard.
Woke up, wished that I was dead, with aching in my head, lay motionless in bed. Thought of you, where you'd gone, and the world spins madly on. Everything that I said I do, like make the world brand new, take the time for you. Just got lost, slept right through the dawn, and the world spins madly on. the stars from my windowsill. The whole world is moving, and I'm standing still. Woke up, wish that I was dead, with aching in my